are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 202. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you, you're in the right place. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. All right, so it is just about halfway through the month, which for those of you going abstinent for the month, it is halfway through Sober October. And if you have made it this far, I want to start by saying well done. And by the way, if you have made this far and you have failed, but you're keeping going, well done to you as well. Because today I want to talk about how you're doing Sober October, how you've made it this far. Because there is a huge difference between getting through the month and growing through the month. I want you to think about that distinction as you go out to bat each day with Sober October, if that is, what you're doing. Some people are white-knuckling it right now. Millions of people are counting the days up, or maybe they're counting the days down until the 1st of November, right? They're powering through the month. They are fighting the cravings. They're counting down the days. They're maybe avoiding going out. They're doing all the distraction techniques. They are forcing their husbands or wives to not drink. They've removed all, triggering wine from the house. I mean, they're living a different life. Maybe they're living like a hermit. There's millions of people like that. Now, if you hear me saying this, and if you think, oh my goodness, Anna, that is me, let's just take a breath. All right? It's not that you're doing it wrong. It's just that maybe you are stuck in the old mindset that drinking less is something you have to endure. Right? I've just got to get through this. But this month isn't meant, in my world, to be a test of willpower, because how you get there is how you stay there. If you spend the month in misery, white-knuckling every single day, going to bed early, hating it, feeling deprived, hating it, pushing back, praying for November, I want you to think about it. Are you going to be willing to have a dry spell at any time in the year, right? That doesn't have, the Sober October or Dry January moniker. Are you just going to decide, hey, I could go alcohol free for a couple of weeks in December? Unlikely is my guess, because all you'll think is, oh, that misery. I just don't want to do that to myself. And this is why, for all those of you because we hear a lot, don't we, that willpower isn't the way to go, but people get a little bit confused. What does that mean? This is why willpower doesn't work, because you don't want to live your life miserable, right? We might be saying, well, I'm not drinking, but I'm so miserable, right? I can't stand it. So again, this month isn't meant to be a test of willpower. It's meant to be, think of it as like a classroom for awareness. So let's take a look in more detail at what I might call the traditional and powering through the month, through Sober October, versus learning your way through the month or growing your way through the month. All right, as I said, you can reach the end of the month by sheer determination, but it really doesn't teach your brain anything new. If you have been gritting your teeth through every craving, you are strengthening the story that alcohol is the reward and that not drinking is the punishment. I want you to think about that, right? That's what you're teaching yourself. Even if logically you say, logically that isn't how it is, that's what you're teaching yourself. This is not going to feel like freedom. This is going to feel like resistance, kind of pretend dressed up as control. So instead of powering through the rest of the month, and you can start this right now, right, from the 14th, I want you to try learning your way through it. I want you to notice what's happening right before the urge hits or while the urge is hitting, right? While you're in the craving. I use urge and craving interchangeably. How are you feeling? Is it stress? Is it boredom? Are you feeling relief that the day's finally done? Ask yourself what you want. What is this glass of wine or glass of beer going to do for you? Why are you having to push it to one side? What would be so much better about your life right now if you were to have that drink? Right? If it wasn't October, it was a normal day. The more you name and understand what's behind the craving, the less power it holds. Right? We just want to get really curious and ask yourself why. Secondly, I want to, if you're in my world, you know that I talk about not fighting urges. We don't want to fight cravings, fight urges, because when we fight them, we're just fighting ourselves. We're locked in an internal battle with ourselves because we want the wine and we don't want the wine, right? So we don't want to do that. We want to understand them. Again, this is another blend of curiosity. Every urge is just a signal. I want you to think of it like that. We talk about trigger and we feel we sort of react to that because like the trigger suggests that we're not in control. It's just a signal. It's a prompt. It's a cue. It's a pattern, right? And it's your brain. It's a sign that your brain is just running a familiar habit loop. It is not a sign you have failed. If you've gone a few days and you haven't really had many cravings, and bam, from nowhere, you have a big one. That doesn't mean, you're failing or something's gone wrong or you're useless or weak or any of those other things you likely say, right? It's just a habit. It's what your brain does. It's motivating. A craving is your brain motivating you to take action, which is to stay in the habit of drinking because our brains like to be efficient. That is all that happens. When you fight an urge, you pour energy into resistance, right? Into resisting it. When you understand an urge, you're going to teach your brain that it is safe to experience it. We are not going to die feeling deprived because we can't have a glass of wine. It is not a national disaster for us. It's not a huge catastrophe if we have to go a couple of evenings without a drink. This is how rewiring happens when we get curious and we start to understand and we take action from there. This is how rewiring happens, not through perfection, but through repetition. It truly is rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That's what we're doing here. You do not need to fight the cravings. You just need to get curious about them. You can do things like ask yourself questions like, what am I feeling? What would help me release this tension right now? I'm feeling tense right now. What could help me release that tension that doesn't involve white wine? Right? Just ask the question and pause. And if you say, I don't know, wait and ask yourself the question again. Give yourself enough time. You will come up with an answer, even if you have to guess, because this is a skill you learn. And like any skill, it gets easier with practice. All right. Next topic I want to cover is for those of you who are dreaming about not a white Christmas, but November the 1st. Right? If you have found yourself fantasizing about that first post-sober October glass of wine, you're not alone. I can almost tell you that with certainty. Most people, maybe not most people, who knows? Most people, certainly many, many people do this at some point, maybe when we're rounding the halfway point here. But it is truly worth asking, I'm going to ask that question again, why? Right? Why are we dreaming about November? We kind of just accept, we're going to do that because we're halfway through. Are you craving the wine or are you craving relief? Is it, again, it's back to that signal. Are you looking for a way just to relax? Or is it really that you just like the taste? And if you think it's the latter, I really want you to see, is that really true? Right? This is the difference that matters, because this is where the real work lies. You can create a sense of relief right now, truly, at any point in this month, even if you've had the hardest, nastiest, toughest day, and it's a Monday, and it's raining, right? You can create relief for yourself that evening, no drink required. Now, there are certain specific, things people can pop in there. You go for a walk, have a bath. I like to just sit and look at the clouds. A moment of quiet. Just telling yourself, I'm giving myself 5 minutes peace. When my children were young, there was a book about a family of elephants. You might have seen it. I think they were called The Large Family. There was one book, 5 minutes peace. Right? So treat yourself to 5 minutes peace. Imagine how delicious that is, just to sit there. No podcast, no music, no nothing. Maybe with your feet up, literally up, out in the air. This is a kind of reset and kind of rest that your body is likely asking for, especially if you've been on your feet all day. If you've been running after your children all day, you've been on your feet all day at work, or even frankly, if you've been sitting at a desk, right? We just, we're stiff because we're we're hunched over laptops. So just do that when you get home. Just give yourself a few minutes. Ask yourself, what do I want right now? This is how you start to make alcohol irrelevant. It's not by you're replacing it with something else. This is not about pouring a mocktail. It doesn't have to be, although it can be, lighting a candle and doing all those other things. It can just be sitting with yourself and acknowledging, I feel really quite stressed, and that's okay, right? You are learning how to meet the need directly by not outsourcing it. It's like saying, okay, I'm feeling stressed. That means we want the wine now. Now, I want to also now shift gears a little bit and have the topic of if you've had a drink, right? So this is the few words for those of you for whom sober October has not been smooth sailing so far. And maybe you want to throw in the towel and you say, it's not working. I can't do it. I'll start again. I'll do dry January. I'll just wait until after the holidays. Right? Maybe you've had a drink or two this month. Maybe you've told yourself, that's it. I failed. This isn't working. I can't do this. If that is you, please genuinely hear this. You have not failed. You're just learning what doesn't work for you, right? This is what happens. I find when people kind of give up and then they might do a number of days and then it's like, whoa, it becomes too much. It just becomes way too strong resistance. This is what happens when the streak of days becomes more important than the learning. And this is one of the primary reasons why in my work with my one-on-one clients, we do not count days. If they go alcohol free, we just don't. We just say, okay, you're alcohol free then. We might say, okay, that's great because we're going to plan. But we certainly don't say that is, 15 days or 22 days. I don't go in for that because we then get fixated on the streak and not wanting to let ourselves down on the streak of days. And so we stop focusing on the process and the learning and we start focusing fully on just the result, i.e. the number of glasses of wine, and we do not learn, right? So the goal in my world with Sober October that I encourage you to adopt is the goal is not 30 flawless days. The goal is to understand what happens on the days that aren't flawless. You can invert it, right? Every craving, every decision, every choice you make, every slip up is feedback. If you've got my book, The Off Switch, there's a whole chapter on feedback. I mean, I devote a whole chapter on this, right? Because figuring out what works and what's going on and why we act the way we do is so important, is fundamental to getting a different result, right? If feedback will show you where your triggers are, where your cues are, where you still believe the drink will help. And it's also going to show you what you can do differently next time, even if it's one tiny, teeny thing, right? One glass of wine, people, does not erase your progress. I'm going to give you one of my family would not say I'm funny, one of my famous driving analogies, right? Because, I'm this big thing about driving and parking, don't like parking. If you're out driving and let's say you're a pretty good parker, and for one moment, one day, you just don't do it very well for some reason. Or maybe you're on the road and you're driving and you think, oh my gosh, I just keep making mistakes. And whatever. We have those days sometimes. What do? You do not say, that's it, I can't drive. I need to go back to driving school and learn where the brake and the accelerator is and where the mirror is and how to turn the car on. No. We just say, okay, I didn't do so well. That's okay. Was there something I can learn? Maybe there was something you could learn. Or we just say, I'll just pick it up tomorrow. Just going to carry on. I know how to drive, right? We can do that with drinking. We can do that with drinking, right? You're just becoming more skilled. So if you do have a slip up, we just want to learn and then move on. We do not need to go back to day one. You just get back up. You just keep going. And what you learn each day is far more powerful than just being alcohol free that day. Because what you learn that day was a transferable skill that you can use at any point in the year, not just when it happened to be sober October. So the real win I want to talk about, the real win is halfway through this month is really the perfect time to slow down and not speed up, to really pause and ask yourself, what is working for me so far? What am I learning about my patterns? Maybe you don't think you've learned anything. If that's the case, that could be a great focus for the second half of the month. And what do I want the rest of the month to feel like? What would I like my experience of this to be? If you've been white-knuckling it, counting days, being miserable, how about if you were just to listen to this episode? You can go back through again, get a pen and paper and note down what I say here, and then take action on these things. You could create a completely different second half sober October if you've had a miserable first half. Because really the real win is not reaching November the 1st without drinking. I think it's reaching November the 1st with a clearer understanding of why you drink and what life looks like when you don't need it as much. That is when alcohol starts to lose its relevance. So as you head into the second half of the month, do not focus on perfect streaks or end of month rewards. I want you to focus on learning about yourself, because that is what creates real freedom, right? It's awareness. Awareness creates freedom. Rules do not create freedom. And if evenings are still your hardest point, if you still have this, I just want to switch off, if this all makes sense and you've read all the books and all the podcasts and you're still having trouble applying it, then it is time to get proper support. This is what we do for other areas of our life. If our dog is not obeying us, we take our dog to dog training classes. If we want to learn pottery, we go to a pottery class. If we want to learn about ancient history, we sign up for an ancient history course. If we want to learn Spanish, we sign up for that. If we want to get our garden landscaped, right, we will at minimum sign up for some awareness about this, and we may just well get someone in to come at least help us design it, right? This is where I come in when it comes to you changing your relationship with alcohol. At this point, there is probably not many cases of different drinking that I haven't seen, right? With my clients who are the ones who they have life is well put together. You don't think about drinking until maybe 5 o'clock. And then it's like, as one of my clients said, it's kind of like this bell is going off from nowhere. And all you can think about is, okay, at least I'm going to have a drink tonight, right? That's what I help you with. That's where I was once. I'm totally free of this. And this is what I help you to achieve. So I want you to book a free discovery call with me. I make it free because I don't work with everyone, and I make it free because I want there to be a low barrier. I want you to come and chat to me about this, about what's going on. On the call, I will write out the exact prescription, the exact plan to get you to where you want to be, right? We're going to see what's keeping you stuck. I'm going to build the path for you out of it. So you will see exactly how to get from where you are now to your goal. And by the way, when people come to me, they do not all want to just give up drinking entirely. Some people do, many don't. And if you don't know what you want, that's also fine. Probably the largest percentage of people who come to me are not really clear on what they want. They just know that what they have today isn't working, right? You do not need to power your way through this on your own, feeling lonely and misunderstood. I am the missing piece. All right, so you can book that discovery call with me by using the TidyCal link here in the show notes, or go to 90dayslater.co, and there is at the top of the page, there is a book a call. You can get access to my calendar. I work with people all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world, all the time zones. So wherever you're located, that is not a problem. If you, however, do not find a discovery call time that works for you, simply send me an email, anna@90dayslater.co, and we'll figure something out. All right. Bravo for all of you doing Sober October. Keep going. And I will see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the backseat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on Book a Call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.